Guys, let's give him a round of applause. Come on, come on. Yes, all right. Nice, nice, good. That's good. Okay. Carl Evans, managing partner at Gresham International. He already spoke once again. Come on, guys, come on. More energy. All right. Mohamed Issa, who is regional sales strategist at Chainalysis. Mohamed, please join on stage. And moderating the panel discussion will be Gvantsa Tatoshvili, who is legal manager in IBCCS Tax, Georgia. All right. Good luck, guys.
Hello, everyone. It's nice to see you all here. It's always very complex, especially nowadays, to navigate through the legal landscape of Web3, especially considering the international nature of Web3 projects. But I think that we have one of the best package of expertise on this stage today. And thank you all for participating on this panel. Thank you. So basically, we will try to discuss the challenges, and maybe we will help you to navigate this complex landscape a little bit more easier. So my first question will be, let me go through the beginning. And considering this international and global nature of Web3, what do you think, and I will start with Mohamed, please. What do you think that might be the most complex issue with regard to different frameworks, legal frameworks internationally, while starting the Web3 projects?
Okay, so let's start by engaging the audience. How many here that happened to them or some of their friend or family member, they got scammed or they stole their fund? Raise your hand, don't be shy. Yeah. Okay. So the challenge that we have is the technology is not yet. Plus, I cannot say the law enforcement and the regulators only, it's all the ecosystem. And we will be speaking, and it's good that we have in the audience here lawyers and from law firms, because I believe that also need to be encouraged. Let me first introduce who we are. So nobody knows maybe who is Chainalysis. So Chainalysis, we work with governments, we work with regulators, name it, Interpol, Europol. We have offices from Tokyo to New York. What we do is kind of simple, even though it's very complicated. We analyze the blockchain for any illicit activity. So we provide research, investigation, and data to the law enforcement and central bank, and definitely also crypto businesses. So you name it, Tether, Binance, our friends are Kraken, they're all our customer, including OpenSea. But the most in risky is the small companies who are getting in, so they might be by mistake getting those assets that someone scammed it from you and get it by. So answering your question, those are the kind of challenges that we have. First of all, there are lots of bad reputation about crypto and the Web3. It will be evolving, and we're trying our best, because at the end of the day, we're trying to keep the crypto and the blockchain safe. But at the same time, there are lots of education that needs to be done when it comes to the part of regulators, law enforcement, and also the law firm. There is a big challenge here. So let's take one example. You lost your asset. Who you will go to? If you will go to the law enforcement, not all of the law enforcement using Chainalysis. Even if they will not have maybe the full capabilities. But you will need a law firm. It's exactly like you're accusing someone that he stole some asset for you. You need a law firm. The law firm, unfortunately, not every law firm, they understand how to do a crypto investigation, how to communicate with different law jurisdiction when it comes to reporting it. So that's the kind of challenge that we're seeing, and I hope that will be solved soon.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for such an insightful feedback. Mümtaz, if you don't mind to share your intake with regard to this subject. We have additional one here.
To be honest, following the landscape is quite hard in Web3 legal, because the first level of law is rumors in Web3. The second layer is regulation rumors. And the third layer is regulation. That's why you have to try to understand and grasp all of them. And it's really tricky because when you do a project in crypto in Web3 space, basically you're open to everywhere. So you have to keep understanding and tracking and following each regulation and try to do your best to navigate yourself in the gray area. That's why trying to get rid of the fog while being safe is quite hard. I think the best challenge is nowadays, at least, the regulation differences and trying to find the sweet spot in being either in gray area, but still the wider side or the blacker side. So it's really complex.
Oh, thank you very much, and I'm sure that Carl will have insights as well. So we can't wait to listen to your insights regarding this subject. So.
Sure, absolutely. It's you guys are both right. It's the arbitrage that we see in jurisdiction is probably one of the biggest strengths in this industry. The amazing thing about Web3 and crypto is that it inspires entrepreneurs from all over the world. And we end up in weird and wonderful places doing some really cool stuff. Case in point, I said to my dad, I'm going to Georgia. And he was like, why? But we don't have to explain that to any of us in this room. We know exactly why we're here, because of forward-thinking innovation. But part of that is also regulation. And I think the biggest difference in this industry, yes, jurisdictional arbitrage, picking where works best for you, but it's also an element of we're educating regulators as we go along. I know Chainalysis does a lot of that as well. You guys do a huge amount of that. And it's also our job as lawyers and almost everybody in this room. And the difference with Web3 and crypto is a lot of laws cascade down, meaning laws are written, they flow down, and the companies underneath it have to oblige by them. But this industry has evolved so quick and so fast that actually we've created the industry and the laws are having to catch up. And that's where we see a big difference. So a company can arbitrage, go to where they are friendly, but they can also use a grey area where the law hasn't quite caught up yet. And that doesn't mean that's a bad thing. It's not somebody doing anything nefarious or looking for something bad. It's somebody saying, look, there isn't a regulatory framework for us. What we're doing is so ahead, it doesn't exist. That's a strength, but it is ultimately a challenge. And I think when you combine that with a number of things like geopolitical situations, like financial situations, like stabilities of geographical region, it creates an even bigger problem, right? Because we can go to weird and wonderful countries that nobody's ever heard of and set a project up that's going to have no regulatory issue, but then the minute they speak to an investor or the minute they try and build a user base, everybody goes, wait, what? Where? Why are you there? What is this place? And it creates challenges. So what we use is this word juxtapose. You have to juxtapose the good against the bad. What's the strengths? What's the weaknesses? How does this work for you? And that gives you the opportunity, but it's the biggest challenge.
Thank you very much. And we were discussing the individual legal framework specific to individual countries, and I think Mümtaz specifically made exclamation point there. And I want to start with you, if you don't object, with the second question. So basically, we encounter very complex regulative frameworks, as well as the frameworks which does not give us any regulations at all, and both of them might be challenging. And how do you think each one of them may be considered as curse or the blessing for the Web3 projects, and which one might be more beneficial or maybe truly curse for them?
I think it works at the same time. It's like a blade and it has sharp edges. It's good to arbitrage sometimes, but sometimes it feels better to be safe. So if it's too complex, you use so much time to understand and to make yourself available so that you can't go further. But sometimes it's too open that you can go further, that no one can reach you. So it's a both curse, but a blessing.
Yeah. Thank you very much. May I ask Mohamed for your intake on this subject?
Okay, I don't know how many of you here remember when we used to access the internet via a router at home. Come on, don't be shy. You remember those days, starting the internet as a teenager? There was something back in the days used to be writing about the independence about the internet. So there is a guy who said, we want to have the internet independence. And the independence law, you can Google it. Government, you are not welcome here. We will not have any regulations. That was part of it. And believe it or not, last year in Miami, in Bitcoin Conference Miami, the first entrance, there was a board about blockchain and crypto independence. And I just stood there and I laughed. And the guy came beside me. Yeah, we signed. Yeah, but really, that happened before, during the internet. If that really was going to be executed, then we will not have paying for the internet, I mean for the flights on the internet, we will not be having to pay our bills. We will not get any banks on the internet. And that's the whole idea of crypto now. If we really want investors, if we want traditional finance, if we want the ecosystem to grow, we need it to be regulated. That's number one. But let me tell you something. So let's say, just answering the discussion regarding, even if you will not be in a country that's regulated, let's say you will go and set up your company in one of the pirate Caribbean islands. Believe me, OFAC and FATF can sanction all of your wallet. And we have cases like that. And sometimes they sanction your whole wallet, even if you're in a regulated entity. So we have different cases in the UAE. They just go and sanction the whole wallet, meaning that if you receive 50% from terrorist group and the other 50% of the asset is clean, your whole wallet is now sanctioned. So the blockchain is very transparent. Every transaction that we're having, it will be there for our grandkids to see it.
Okay, thank you very much. Carl, might we listen to your insights regarding this subject as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we have a dream that is regulators. I think we would love regulators to see blockchain and crypto for what it is, its actual ability, and the strengths that it has. Like blockchain is there for everybody to see. It's transparent, and if they wrapped their heads around a lot of it, they would understand that blockchain has the ability to, when it works properly, get rid of a lot of things like money laundering, or you can see where things are going and where they're coming from. And I get that we're very far away from that, but if you're asking the question, what about picking a jurisdiction? I think that's always a good idea, because you can build a great reputation and a great relationship with a regulator. And ultimately, at the end of the day, because we are in this situation where we have to help regulators, we have to help them understand, and law enforcement and other people, part of that is growing that relationship with a regulator. Now, again, because everything is different, right? You do have the option of going somewhere that's not regulated. And what we actually see is a lot of companies elect to do both. They have almost like an unregulated part of their business and then a regulated part of their business. And they don't do that because they're being nefarious or because they're trying to break the rules. They're doing that because, unfortunately, at the minute, we see a lot of regulators change their mind very quickly. And that's not for, anything, again, it's not anything bad, but it's just you can do the best that you can and think that you are 100%, well, as close to 100% legal as you can get. And a regulator just says, no, actually, you know what, that doesn't fall under that scope. That's something completely different. So I think being wise to regulators and helping them, picking a jurisdiction, great idea, regulated place.
Thank you very much. And if I won't tire you too much, so basically you have mentioned that the sectors developed so rapidly that law can't catch up to it. So my question will be, how can future of law solve these challenges that we are facing nowadays? And if Web3 projects should consider all the possible implications of future regulations at the beginning of their web projects, because it might be too tiring for the Web3 projects at the beginning of their life cycle.
Yeah, great question. I always say the best time to speak to a lawyer is when you get the idea. The amount of projects that we see that come to us that have already started and then approach you and say, oh, well, we already started fundraising, and we already started selling a token, and we just did it from here. And you ask them why they did it from there, and they say, well, these guys did it from there, so we think we're okay. I mean, don't. Just have a conversation with a lawyer. Why? Because you want to be a serious project. You want to be a serious project. You want to make serious decisions. You want to be taken seriously. Go and have serious conversations. I downloaded this SAFT from an online website and used a company in the Caribbean because that's what these guys did, is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. It really is. Like, it doesn't take an hour consultation with a lawyer who knows what they're doing just to do it. And if you get in at the ground level, what you spend at that ground level will be nothing compared to what you have to pay in 6 or 12 months' time. And so understanding what it is that you want to do and building on it and using a landscape and a regulatory framework, and this is a great question, by the way, you don't necessarily need a crystal ball to see what the future looks like, because if we did that, we already know who's going to win the football and, lots of cool stuff. But the reality of the situation is you can do the best that you've got now with what you've got. Because also so many startups bootstrap. You don't have the money to go and fight. You don't have the money to go and necessarily pay for every license, even though you may want to. So it's about creating a framework that is scalable. Everybody knows this word, right? We are scalable. And being scalable isn't just a tech term, it's a legal term. Make your company scalable in a legal sense. And that's as close as you can get to a crystal ball.
Thank you very much. And I think we will appreciate the feedback from Mümtaz as well regarding the future implications of law and the resolutions it might provide us.
Of course. I can't agree more with Carl, because even the regulators change minds. We change as lawyers' minds as well. And the regulatory framework changes everywhere, and different islands pops out everywhere, every day. We go to conference, someone just pops out saying, I incorporate my company in Palau. Where is Palau? It's a small island somewhere. I do the St. Vincent. Where is that? And even you're a blockchain lawyer, you have to keep updated. So I think the first future will be blockchain lawyers. 1 or 2 years probably we will be useful. But in the era of Gen AI, we won't be useful too much. I really believe that legal tech will boom in this area. It was really hard to get an investment or scale a legal tech before, but with the help of the AI, probably it will be much easier. So the first 1, 2, at most 3 years, we will be helpful, probably as blockchain lawyers with Carl. But after that, legal tech will boom and probably at least take most of our works. And we will try to understand it deeper so that AI can catch you. So it will be the future of the law will be the challenge in this matter.
Thank you very much. And with regard to future of law, Mohamed's expertise is quite appreciated. So basically, what might be your intake on this subject?
Yeah, well, I think there should be a kind of collaboration and a kind of workshops, education workshop between the regulators and the private sector. Even with the law enforcement, because don't forget that each and every country, they have their own set of regulations. Some of them, it's not yet developed, but there are measurements when it comes to the law enforcement, and that's the basic requirement, that we want to make sure that you are not scamming anyone with your project. We want to make sure that you are not using the platform as a money laundering tool. Those are basic requirements, and the law enforcement can do that. From our part, we try to organize those workshops, and by the way, we did very nice one in Turkey. I believe that you're from Turkey.
Yeah. It's a shame that I didn't attend, but it will be my best effort next time.
So yeah, we have the Turkish police as our customer, and the financial sector is our financial police. Masak is our customer. By the way, we work also with the Georgian Financial Ministry of Finance here. So we did that, and they came. So they came, and we have banks, we have exchanges, and they are asking them, what do you see as illicit? And what do you see that we should get a fine for? And it was like 2-hour discussion for them to understand. And from my point of view, that is the basic requirement, that you don't get a fine or don't get a prison sentence. That's the basic requirement. But of course, when we're talking about the quality of the project and having those kind of regulations, that needs to be developed. And again, that's something that the public sector and the private sector, in an event like that, maybe next year, what will happen is, let's discuss regulation in Georgia. We know exactly what it is. Let's do that and help the ecosystem to understand what are the requirements.
Okay. Thank you very much. And we have discussed all the lack of regulatory frameworks, the gaps that we have in regulatory frameworks, and questions that clients might have with regard to each project or execution of each task. And my next question will be, which tools might be used to fill in these gaps today? And nowadays, what solutions can we provide to these people to have additional explanation and provide them with solutions, especially considering the fact that we have conflicting legal frameworks throughout the world? And Sorry. I think if Mümtaz won't object, we can start with your insights.
I'll do my best. It's quite tricky, as you say, because there are different regulations. Even the main parts of it doesn't fit. So it's really try to do your best to make sure you're compliant in different jurisdictions. I think what we can achieve through regulators and through all the stakeholders is try at least unify the laws, at least in terms of definitions, in terms of how we see it. If it's too different, it's really harder to make it compliant. I think what MICA tried to do in Europe is quite valuable, but we need to do more to make sure that it's easier to go between jurisdictions. Otherwise, we will be spending those precious time just to do the arbitrage. What we have to focus on is to make sure that we have the proper standing, we have the basic understanding in every jurisdictions, so that we can choose jurisdictions not just for their legal frameworks, but different things. That will be the future I've been hoping for.
I see Cal accepting your explanation, but I will ask additionally to provide us with your additional insights. Also, I can see accepting the explanation.
Yeah, because and this is such an important point. That word scalability, it applies in this industry more than any other. And the reason why we are weakest in this industry is not for lack of regulation, because there is regulation. Laws already exist for things like theft and scamming and fraud. That's existed for years. Unfortunately, I've always said this, as the bad guys get smarter, the technology gets smarter, there's nothing we can do about that. We have to always be observant for that. But why we are hindered is because of one word, and that's passporting. And that's if we look at a lot of industries that already work in similar finance, tech, even the entertainment industry, there is the concept of passporting. I can get regulated in one country and show up to another, and that gets verified. But that doesn't really exist too much in this industry right now. The UK, the EU are looking at passporting and some various other options, but crypto specific. I mean, if we think of this in a lateral sense, I can set up an airline in the United Kingdom and it can be regulated to work in 25 other countries, right? Because passporting regulations. We don't have that yet in crypto. I can't necessarily get a license here in one country and it's recognized in another. I have to go through all of the regulatory framework, and that comes with time, expense, money, expertise, lots of things. And even though the reason that is important is because of market penetration. There are some markets you want to penetrate. Your client base needs it. Your client base wants it, but it's too expensive. It's not worth it. So then, as a business leader, you have a decision. Am I going to work within that segment, that market segment, with 100% regulation, even though it might not actually apply? It might be overly burdensome. Or am I just going to rely on what I've got and not necessarily roll the dice, but stay in this gray zone where I'm not breaking the law, but I'm also not with it because it's not 100% accurate? And that's the biggest weakness, is that if there was more collaboration and communication, because we're great at talking to banks, regulators, police. This is outstanding, and we should do this every day. But now we need to get them talking to each other. What are you guys doing? How are you making this work? How is this benefiting us? How can we start to help founders and people within the industry? And the biggest thing we point to when we sat two very large regulators down together was we said, you understand that most of the user base is in your country and most of the liquidity is sourced in your country, right? It's literally crossing the border, but you make people go through insane hoops. So I think that's the next phase.
Thank you very much. And Mohamed, your solution-based feedbacks are just amazing, and can't leave this panel without receiving your feedback on this.
Thank you. So what I see is we see now what's happening in Europe with MiCA. So if you get regulated in Spain, you can operate in France, in different countries. And that's only the start. Because don't forget, the technology is just a baby. And with all of my respect, all of you guys, we are all advanced when it comes to crypto. But don't forget, the regulators are still government. And we know how it is. Maybe I have friends, I have family from the government. The learning process is not that fast. The other speaker earlier on, they spoke about the Dubai experience, which is much more advanced. We work with a regulator there since they started, but still, the mindset of the government is still very slow. I remember when it all started back, they say, why should we regulate it? If tomorrow the glass have a value, should we regulate glass? We will be implementing the same what we have now with traditional finance. Of course, that doesn't apply. But we see progress with MiCA when it's happening. And we will see that step by step. But we cannot really expect that all countries will implement the same regulations for different reasons. You know how it is in the Caribbean. They just want business. Seychelles, they just want business. And we saw what's happening in China. They don't want crypto. So every country, they have their political standpoint when it comes to crypto. And I don't think that it will all be united. I don't expect that. The only thing that we can do as Chainalysis, what we do is we provide for the government and also for the private sector the facility that they can adjust their own risk appetite. So for example, if you are in a country that is gambling is allowed, turn it off. You will not be getting any alert that money coming from gambling. But if you're in a jurisdiction like Abu Dhabi and it's not allowed, no, turn it off. So that would be much more easier. So meaning that the private sector, they can also help the public and the ecosystem when it comes to blockchain to adjust those risks by just pressing a button.
Thank you very much. And I can't let myself not to start the second question with you because my second question is a little bit different from the previous one. And as we all, everyone here attending knows, one of the most headaches that Web3 projects have is the relationship with the banking system. So basically my question will be if proper AML, KYC, and KYT procedures as well can help crypto world to make better and more practical having business relationships with the banking systems, traditional banking systems.
Yeah, sure. So let's talk about Georgia and maybe also about Turkey, because Turkey is considered, I believe, #1 in the Middle East in crypto adoption. I visit a lot. We have lots of customers there, and they're #1 in the world in stable coin transactions.
I think we're totally third all around the world in terms of crypto adoption.
And the 3 reasons, which is the core Bitcoin white paper reason, which is high inflation, banking the unbanked, and very, very low transaction fees. So that's very important. And that's what happened. But before even FTX case, which is, we all know about the FTX case, there was a Turkish exchange. They just took the money and he ran away. I think that he was caught in Albania.
The exchange name was Todex.
Yeah, he was caught in Albania. So before even FTX, Turkey was considered. What should we do with crypto? Like, it's booming. So we have talks with different regulators there. We have talks with banks. And the decision is, let's banks manage the custodian and exchanges keep exchange. Of course, there is no one going to force it. It's completely up to you. And I tell you, that will even increase the ecosystem because my mom and my sister will not be putting the money with an exchange. But if you're telling them, listen, it's your bank, just open application, you have 2 sides. You have fiat, your salary, and you have crypto, if you want to put your asset in crypto. And you still can communicate with me and send me in crypto with much more lower fees. That's a very good example, and that's how to increase actually the crypto adoption more than it is in Turkey. But still, I believe that's what's going to happen, and we are working with banks in that topic, and also in Georgia. Why not? So the banks, there's 2 parts here. First of all, they want to understand, as you are a crypto project, where are you getting your money from? Are you getting it from terrorist group or are you getting it from the darknet market? That's the basic requirement, not to be involved with any crypto company that they are involved in any illicit activity. Number 3, which is how they need to evolve. Banking need to evolve, which is, why don't we also enter into crypto? Maybe we cannot compete with you at an exchange, but we can compete with you in one thing, trust. We have already compliance. We know how to deal with millions of dollars. We are not going to run away, so we will keep that asset. But again, the challenge is the technology. We're working with different wallet provider with them. We're building with the compliance with them. But I believe that will be the future, that banks and traditional finance will be coming into our ecosystem, and we will all play nicely together. Exchanges and banks and the central bank. There is CBDC, guys. Lots of people, they don't like crypto. You will own crypto in the future. I think it was discussed earlier on. So all countries are discussing it, and we will be having CBDC.
Thank you very much, and I want to continue the conversation with Mümtaz insight, because I think that Carl will have a slightly different insight on this subject. Not sure, not Carl myself, but let's see. Let's see. So, Mümtaz, if we can listen to your insight regarding this subject.
Since we continue with Turkish landscape, news from Turkey, we're going to adopt our new regulation soon. Probably it will be released in 2 weeks. And the solution our regulator found was with banks as well. If you're going to custodize your fiat currency, it has to do with banks. But fortunately, they're going to allow us to do self-custody in terms of cryptocurrency. So our solution is still with banks, unfortunately. I think we should play nice with them as well, but I'm a huge fan of DeFi. So I hope DeFi will be a huge wave that banks will float under it. So I'm a huge fan of DeFi. But since Turkey has a huge background on using technology in banks, lots of things that we're really used to do, it's startups different where. So I think the first ATM machine came Turkey in 1980 something, and I saw ATM startup in the United States in 2000. So we are fast in terms of banking and solutions. So I think we're going to have a fair fight, but hope DeFi will win. And in terms of AML and the KYC stuff, if you're in projects, you do your best to make sure that everyone is legit. But a day comes, a regulator calls you and asks you everything. That's the time that you have to get ready for everything. So maybe you can definitely use them when the day comes. But
you need to be with us before the regulator hammers your door. Okay.
So it's same for lawyers as well. It's too late to go to lawyer when something happens. You have to make sure that you have an ongoing conversation and understanding of law. So I think banks will be huge in let's say 5 years, but hopefully not anymore.
Thank you very much. Huge believer of DeFi as well here. Yeah. And Carl, can't wait to hear your insights regarding this subject, to be honest.
Yeah, sure. I think I'm going to be a little different here. First of all, KYC, AML. I think that's a social responsibility. I think we all have to do it. Why? Because nobody likes bad guys. Nobody wants to finance terrorism. Nobody wants to help people trafficking. All of the really nasty stuff you watch in movies, that comes from money generation somewhere, and nobody wants that. So we all have a social responsibility, regardless of what your company does, to do that, right? If there's an exposure, you can do it. Having said that, I think we also can't forget that Bitcoin, which started everything, most of the things we're talking about, was born out of, post-traumatic effect, the financial crisis, the collapse of banks. We created a system that was designed to remove middlemen and middle people, because trusting middlemen and middle people proved that it wasn't necessarily the right way to do things. Because in a world where bankers are paid extraordinary bonuses for doing relatively little work, especially when their banks are on the brink of collapsing. By the way, there were 16 banks that were evaluated 2 weeks ago that were under a stress test in the United States. So goodness knows what that's like on a global scale. And that's why we adopted the principles of not your keys, not your crypto, right? Because I can self-custody my own money. I don't need somebody else to do that for me. And part of that is shifting that paradigm to understand that the social responsibility of using it, of trading it, of exchanging it, is making sure that it doesn't fall into the hands of bad actors. There are tools to do that. There are ways to do that. There are means to do that. But there's a common sense approach to do that, right? You didn't have to know. Excuse me, you have to know who the counterparty is, who you are trading with, who you are exchanging with. DeFi is great. I love DeFi, but DeFi has also got a big weakness in that as well, right? Anonymity is very cool. So as lawyers, Well, let me explain it this way. My father used to say that we all wear different hats, right? You wear a different hat in a different situation. As lawyers, we have one hat, right? We have regulators. As business founders, you have a social responsibility hat, right? Your company doesn't do bad stuff. It doesn't funnel bad actors. It doesn't let bad things happen. But then you kind of have your own individual user hat where you're like, well, I want freedom. I don't want to pay unnecessary people unnecessary things when I can do it myself. So you have to marry all of those things together. And a good project, a good company, a good entity will use all of those three things. And it should be part of what you bake in, right? Should be what you think about, which is why we say, come to lawyers, use the tools day one, because you want to do all of that. You don't want to have run a company for 6 or 12 months and found out that it's actually been used for money laundering. That's a nightmare. It's not just a regulatory headache, that's a social issue. You don't want to operate a company where regulators come along and say, hey, you're doing this wrong, because nobody wants to do that. So actually, there's a lot of social responsibility, but I think we have to house a lot of that ourselves. I think that's where that rests.
Thank you very much. And with your permission, I would like to wrap up our panel here, considering the fact that we started a little bit late, and let's consider the situation of our attendees as well. But can't leave this panel without thanking you very much. It was very interesting listening to your insights, and I hope all the attendees agree with my intake on this subject. Thanks a lot. And but I do not want to wrap up it without giving you additional chance to add your maybe additional perspectives to something that I have not mentioned during the conversation.
Maybe we open it to questions, if anyone have questions.
We're going to start picking on people.
Yeah.
No one puts their hands up.
Okay. Okay.
Sold to the gentleman on the left-hand side. No.
A little bit of a rhetorical question. So, CZ has just been remanded into jail. And, with all the wealth that he created around the world, knowingly that he was probably breaking some rules, I got to ask each one of you guys, would you take the sentence that he is, taken for the wealth that he created and the power that he created in that time?
Are you asking us if we have a dollar amount that we'd be in jail for? U.S. federal jail for? I mean, I'm going to advise myself not to answer that question.
I think I'm going to advise all of you not to answer this question. As a moderator, I will take it as my responsibility and ask you not to answer the question.
I love your candor. I love the question.
Yeah. So, thank you for your question.
I can simply say I love my wife and I want to live with her.
Yeah. Of course. Thank you very much. And thank you, everyone.
Any
additional questions, maybe? We have additional questions.
Gentleman in the black T-shirt there as well. So
we have additional microphone there.
Great. Yeah, thank you. So you have covered some areas of anonymity in crypto, etc. But nobody mentioned truly anonymous cryptos like Monero, Zcash, etc. Less visible than Bitcoin, Ethereum, blah, blah, blah. So what do you think about them?
I don't like them. I'll be honest. I don't.
Yeah, why? If you don't like, why?
And I do respect that people love their privacy. I get that. But I also, again, I'm a very big social responsibility person. And I think, yes, you should have freedom of economics. I think that is a fantastic and healthy thing. And I think there's very opposing views on how the government should and shouldn't handle that and how much involvement they should and shouldn't have. But I do also think, to answer your question, privacy coins, as they were coined, yes, they were privacy coins, they are literally the house of bad actors. I mean, they are, let's keep things private might not necessarily be a good thing.
Yeah, so let me ask you. I hope it doesn't happen to you, but someone scam you, hack your wallet, whatever, and he stole all of your savings. Directly cross-chain it to Monero. What would you feel?
Well, I think in any case, if someone takes my assets, I'm gonna be sad, right?
You're gonna miss it. Are you
use it,
going
of
to
course.
say Monero is bad, or you say no, Monero is good, it's perfect? The only problem is with me.
Yeah, for me, I think that if my actions lead to the case that I lost something, that it's my responsibility that I didn't take enough actions to prevent this.
Okay, you will just blame yourself.
Hell yeah.
Let me tell you another bad example, because
Gentleman's a
guys, we are
libertarian.
really involved in crazy stories. I'm sure that you know what's a darknet market, right? If you Google Chainalysis and a case called 911S5, it just went public just 5 days ago. We had a case with the Department of Justice in the US. It's a 14 million computer was hacked. A total of $1 billion of crypto that we investigated and we traced it. But that money, most of them were going through the darknet. You know what's a darknet? There are horrible video is sold there. And I hope that doesn't happen to anyone that you know. There are sick people publishing those videos. There are even to order someone to kill someone. It's true, it's not out of movies. Guys, it's true.
So let me just, we all love listening to crazy stories.
Okay.
Maybe we won't say we won't say it out loud, but we do love it. So basically, we all will have the opportunity to encounter you during the conference, and thank you for
This gentleman
insight.
has such an awesome T-shirt. I want him to ask his question.
But I do not want us to conflict with the conference schedule. I know,
still
but
have
we
4
have
minutes, don't worry.
started
Yeah,
late.
we're good. We got 4 minutes.
Okay,
go.
let's use
Gonna be
our
a
time.
quick one.
Okay, please.
I think there's a limit to KYC. I'm going to ask you a question. Would you like for someone that you don't know how much money you have in your bank? And the answer should be no.
Who's from Sweden or Norway? Raise your hands. Okay, Sweden or Norway, they publish how much money you make. It's public.
But that's an exception. It's not.
Oh,
the
I
rule.
agree. I hate it. I mean,
So technically, I think the limit with KYC is the fact that blockchain is fully transparent. So not only people will have access to how much I own, but they also have access to all my past and future transactions.
But that's not about KYC. If that's about the blockchain. So if I have your wallet, I can understand exactly how much asset, what type of asset that you have, and all the past transaction that you had. It's not because of KYC. KYC, when I will link that wallet to your name.
Yeah. I'm talking about that specific aspect of regulations.
Yeah, but all exchanges, they have a privacy contract with you. They cannot share it unless that there is a criminal police record that was shared.
I'm thinking about more of the decentralized side of this, because exchanges do comply with the law and they have that relationship with the regulators and the customers. But DEXs not necessarily. And the regulators are trying to push the DEXs to implement KYC, for example, which kind of doesn't make sense in my head. But I'm seeing a solution which would be kind of partial KYC, which means that I can prove with a ZK proof, for example, that I'm not a criminal. Where what would be required is for the law enforcement agencies to kind of offer, or at least collaborate with the technology and make sure that your wallet is not linked to a criminal activity. Do you guys see any future to that approach?
By the way, we are being yelled at to get off the stage. So we're going to take this offline. This has been great. Gentlemen, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for such interesting discussion. Thank you, everyone.